Welcome back to Roadmap, Auto Trader's product and tech podcast. My name is Nathan Ulett. I'm a principal product designer here at Auto Trader, and today I am joined by three super talented individuals. To my right, to my right, I've got Lee Jeffery, design lead at Sage, and as it always pains me to say, ex-colleague here at Auto Trader. James Rand, UX designer at the Street Group, and last but definitely not least, Kully, UX designer with a background in graphic design. And we are some of, but not all, of Natter, organisers, founders, a mixture, founder, Lee. Now, we'll get into exactly what Natter is shortly, but before we do, it's probably worth explaining why we are here and not Pete and his usual guests. So, Auto Trader being one of our community sponsors, and we'll touch on community sponsors a little bit more later on, no doubt, have kindly offered up their space and their resources for us to explain who we are, why we are, and share with all the listeners out there kind of exactly what Natter is. So exciting. And I think we're the first takeover. Trailblazers, guinea pigs. Well, we'll see how we get on after the end. So Lee, I want to start off with you as founder of Natter. What is it?
Do I get the elevator pitch? So essentially Natter is a social design community based in Manchester. It's aimed at anyone kind of working, studying, or anyone really interested in digital design. So that covers kind of the core disciplines of kind of user experience, content, research, accessibility, kind of brand. There's quite a few, isn't there? So, but I think Natter is about kind of the power of conversation. So it kind of extends further than that. So I think if you think about designers as our craft, that's kind of only like 50% of the role. I think the other half is kind of like people, environment, kind of like your self-development. So we can kind of go into areas such as kind of career growth or kind of self-confidence, imposter syndrome, kind of managing stakeholders, kind of your self-development and stuff like that. So that's where it kind of goes beyond into kind of other areas. But yeah, essentially, it's somewhere to kind of build friendships, kind of be inspired and then connect with kind of other people within the design industry.
Lovely stuff. Sounds rehearsed. So for people who haven't had the pleasure of attending a Natter event or any of the number of things that we do, what can they expect?
I think we've got great speakers. We always get great speakers. I think Manchester's got a fantastic community, and we're really lucky in that respect that we get a lot of people reaching out to us, wanting to speak, wanting to have that first opportunity to speak publicly, I suppose, and in a safe space. We offer that safe space, and I think that's what's really special about Natter.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously one of the things that we've kind of tried to do over the past 7 months, whenever this goes out, is obviously like the type of events we do. Obviously, we're not just kind of you kind of turn up, listen to us talk. I know we've spent a lot of time over the past 6 months and kind of prior to that trying to think of ways to kind of differentiate with like the type of events we do. So Kully, using an example like the spotlight stories where we go into organizations, interviewing, like how do you find that kind of stuff?
Super insightful, to be honest. Even being somebody that's doing the interview, you learn a lot from it, you take away a lot from it as well. And it's a great insight to how other teams are working in other companies as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I know we've got obviously like a couple of, I guess, strands with Natter. So obviously we've got the meetups, we've got mentoring. What are the others?
Yeah, so I think it was kind of designed that way because when we were putting on events, everybody's on a different stage of the journey. So whether it's someone who's kind of starting out in design, whether it's someone who's been doing it for a long time, and you'd speak to people and they want to get something different for an event. So we kind of started thinking, well, how do we kind of put on events that people can kind of come to and take stuff away? So I think we come up with that idea of kind of like a community circle. So there was the kind of the design thinkers of tomorrow. So kind of looking at education, there's kind of a gap in there. So it's kind of how can we help put on events or where for kind of in education where people can kind of find out about careers in design. So that kind of like filled that gap. And then there was the career starters, so people who were just starting out in UX, or maybe there was a graduate, or there was kind of career changes as well. Yeah. So it's kind of how do we put on events so they can come, and they want more kind of like portfolio advice, kind of interview techniques, maybe starting out in a new role. So that kind of goes into kind of the mentoring. And then you've got kind of the seasoned professionals who may be doing it for a few years, looking to move from pro into mid or senior. They want to kind of take away kind of like process or stuff like that. And then you kind of got the leadership angle then. So kind of maybe leading teams or leading projects. And it's kind of, how do we put on stuff where you can kind of start looking at the culture side of design? So if you look at all that, from like the mentorship spotlights, academy, the meetups, we're kind of trying to cover all those different angles and just playing around in that space and see what sticks, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I know we did obviously the design jam, the design club meetup not too long ago at Street Group, which is another one of our community sponsors, like big up community sponsors. But yeah, like I brought my nephew along to that. You know, he's 10 years old and he got lots out the day, like just kind of giving him a bit of an insight into like the kind of thing we do on a day-to-day basis. Like really excited to see. Well, loads of crazy ideas as well.
Well, that's good, isn't it? I think at the end of it, everyone was like waiting for the next one, wasn't there? There's a real buzz in the room, but that's where we kind of, I think it was like 10 or 12 designers from across Manchester just came in. There wasn't kind of like part of our volunteering team, but they're kind of like an extended volunteering team. And yeah, it was a great day, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think, you know, as you said, at the end of the day, it was kind of like, when's the next one? You know, it's like people want to get their kids into this, and it's something that is, as you said, missing from perhaps the education system. It's a gap in that early sort of education. We're able to offer something totally unique and help guide these people potentially into a future career in product design.
Yeah, that's where we end up becoming kind of enablers or multipliers in a way. So we've kind of held that event, people have come, but there's no reason why some of those designers can't go into their kind of organizations or run design clubs in their local communities. So it kind of expands it, which is quite nice.
100%.
I think we saw a bit of that as well, where I think, didn't we see after the event somebody met up with some of the attendees and actually extended what they did on the day the following week, which was fantastic to see as well.
It was scary actually what they were coming up with, coming for our jobs. Yeah,
I think I was very tempted. I still might do it. To be fair, I've still got all the sheets and stuff that my nephew put together. Actually, go and put it into like a working prototype because it's going to put us out the job. Basically, we're not going to have a job for long. One of the things for all the people watching anyway, will notice that we're all branded up. And I think one of the things that we actually get a lot of feedback on, funnily enough, or strangely enough, whatever, is like the name and the branding. So obviously that was definitely more your forte, and another Jen, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but like what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so we get a lot of comments on the brand. I think it was the mastermind behind it, it's Andy Culbert, who I did work with at Auto Trader actually. So it was funny because when I was working with him, it was during the pandemic, so we didn't see each other. And I was in a pub in Manchester and I was telling him about kind of wanting to start this community, and he was kind of delving into a little bit more about what we wanted to try and build. And I think because we were talking, I wanted it to be beyond UX, I wanted it to be about people connecting together, and I wanted it to be quite regional to Manchester and a bit like the heritage behind it. So there was... He offered to help. I don't know whether the beer convinced him, but he went on a bit of a journey. Actually, it's great to see his design process, and he started looking at kind of words, and kind of natter came up, and it was all about that kind of the conversation element, and it really fit. Obviously, it's a northern slang word for having a chat, and it kind of felt like intriguing, or if it felt a bit quirky, which was quite nice. And then he started playing around with the logo, making like the speech marks into an N, and it felt like you could see kind of the heritage of Manchester, like the buildings or the mills and stuff like that in there. And then he went into kind of tone of voice. So it all starts with a natter, like a simple conversation that could lead to something extraordinary. So yeah, it was just all fitting. But I think we only really scratched the surface with it. I know we'll say that like all the work that he'd done, it was great. But I think we should start going into kind of like motion and sound. So there's probably still areas we can take it. So if we can get a little bit more of his time, I guess. But no, it's it fits the community really well.
Yeah, 100%. Like I remember the first time I seen it, I was like, that feels like the Hacienda logo with those the mills and stuff. And then when you told me, you're like, yeah, that's some inspiration. I was like, amazing. So obviously, kind of running an organization or / community like this, like obviously it doesn't just happen. Probably just on that note, shout out to some of the members who are not here today who make up the rest of Natter. So that's Reese, Marta, Kat, and Dorsa. obviously kind of putting this together and the events that we do and the scale of them kind of like takes a lot of time and effort and planning, and obviously a whole host of other factors as part of that. So I think people will be really interested to kind of get a bit of a view of what goes on behind the scenes of like, how does an event or any number of events that we do at Natter like come to be?
So I think, as I said before, it's great because the community in Manchester do reach out. So we obviously have to find speakers when we're doing that type of event, and we've been again very lucky with sponsors. We sort of put it out there, and people have offered their space, offered venues, offered to feed us as well, and that's great. But when you start thinking about it, you're like, okay, we got to do this. We've got to set up food. We've got to make sure we're covering dietary requirements, all these things. You've got to get the tickets live. You put it out, you spend ages getting all this stuff ready, and you think, right, I'm done. And then you sit there and you panic briefly. You're kind of like, okay, so all this is ready. It's happening in like 2 weeks, but is actually anybody going to turn up? You know, you've done everything you can, but you can't do anything for that 2 weeks and just hope that everybody turns up on the night. You turn up there, and then everyone turns up, and that sense, it's like a huge sense of relief. But there is quite a lot that goes into actually planning. It's not, we come together once a week. I think, Lee, you described it as we're like a mini design team. Come together and plan these things.
Kind of like a little mini business of sorts in some ways, isn't it? And again, we'll kind of maybe feeds into like some of the roles and responsibilities that we've started to take on doing this. It started off as just something we'll kind of give a bash, whereas now we've got, like video editing, social media, like like event management, all this type of stuff. I mean, there's a career in it, maybe a different career for us in there somewhere else. But kind of like some of the challenges. So I know you just touched on there, James. Like obviously you kind of put it out, and obviously we come across, it's not always like smooth sailing. Like people are busy. Like sometimes things might change. There's often challenges that come up as part of that. Like what would you say some of the main challenges we face in the planning side of things are?
Yeah, I think like you touched on there, I think we've actually built out a really solid volunteering team there. And I guess it wasn't really by design. We've just all come together, but we've kind of built solid friendships. And I guess that's the big thing, is making sure that we're getting enjoyment out of it. Obviously, we're giving up our time and volunteering. We need to make sure that we're getting value from it. I think it is hard starting a community. There's probably things that people don't see around, like if a venue pulls out or if you get low attendance or whatever. But I think we're kind of a bit lucky, like you mentioned, around being in Manchester. There's quite a lot of businesses around here supporting us. So yeah, definitely kind of appreciate all that support. And I guess we've not really got many challenges as such, but I think that's the core team all coming together and supporting each other. That's what helps. So if people are feeling it, or they want to step out for a month and then come to the next one, everybody's kind of there to support. And I think, as you mentioned about stuff that we're doing and like the roles and skills within the team. So I don't know if anyone watches F1 and you've seen the Martin Brundle kind of pit lane talk where he does the interviews, where it's like Kully came and she was like, I've got this idea of doing kind of like street style interviews at one of the events. I was like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's try it out. So let's do it and learn. And she kind of did that and then went round, and it was at our Trader at 2 and we did it. And it came out on socials, really engaging. And it kind of give people another insight into the events, actually hearing from people in there. And I think that's what I really want to try and encourage, is like as a volunteering team, let's try stuff. Let's do things. If it doesn't work, let's learn from it. Let's try something different. I think everyone then can find, I don't know how you found doing that. You kind of found your little niche in there now.
Well, it wasn't meant to be my niche. It was an idea. But then obviously he was like, go do it. So I did it. No, it's really good. I mean, the flip side to it, other than having insights from people who haven't been to our events, is actually the people there start feeling more part of a community as well, because they get to have their say on the night and you get to hear their insights as well. So the feedback as well is really useful for our social media. And you just start feeling that the community feel involved themselves as well. I think it builds that community where people don't just feel like they're turning up to an event, they feel like they're actually part of it. And that kind of ties into what I was going to mention about challenges is FOMO. And you mentioned like no pressure kind of thing on the volunteers is really important, because it does make it feel like you want to be a part of something, but make sure that you've got the time and the capacity to be able to be part of it. So sometimes you might just not have that. But I do feel some of our like community attendees do get that as well, because we've built this strong feel of community.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we was talking, wasn't we, about like the type of people who come to the events. And I think initially when I was first starting, it's like, try and get as many people there as possible, and try and just build the community, get the numbers up. And then I actually realised the power of, I guess, people who come and then connect, and you'll see them come to another event together, and it'll be like, definitely. Wow, it's all those kind of like little mini networks being built. So the value of it is actually what they're getting out of it, rather than kind of like numerical kind of like, oh, we want to get so many people at events. So yeah,
I think it was really nice to see as well. I know we helped facilitate the service design as well, community sort of growing in Manchester as well. That was really nice, and that came off the back of a conversation with people at one of the events. They were like, hey, we've got this thing that we want to try, like, can you help us run this? And as you say, we've got experience as event organisers now. It was great, and we've launched another micro community.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually, because I think at first it was like hosting kind of meetups, and now there's kind of partnerships being formed. So we've got a community. If there's something that you're putting on that could benefit that community and benefit the people that what they're trying to do, can kind of bring that together. So the service design one was a really good example, and it was a different type of meetup as well. So it was quite a lot of hands-on. It was a workshop style one, which was nice to kind of have a little different format, because I think people kind of get, I think they take stuff in differently, don't they? So people like having like a talk that they could come and listen to, but maybe other people like getting more hands-on, or like hearing a panel. So it's kind of doing those different types of events.
Yeah, definitely. I think you touched on something just as you were saying previous around, obviously, like there's a whole theme there around like community and support and just fostering that community. Obviously, like kind of what an element we wanted to touch on was like sponsorship. So we kind of talked about community sponsors. Auto Trader is one of them, Street Group's one of them, and we've got like UXL as well. Like, what kind of a role or how important are community sponsors into, I guess, allowing or enabling us to be able to do what we do?
Yeah, they're so important. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. Like money wise, I think there's lots of costs behind the scenes. So there's like website costs and subscriptions that we've got. Sometimes we haven't always got a sponsor for an event. So I think having community, like businesses like supporting it is really valuable. And I think it's kind of like design teams did a takeover. So like at AJ Bell, their design team did a bit of a takeover. So it's nice for them to kind of run their own event, and it was kind of branded as Natter, so there's bits of it. And UXL you mentioned, I think we kind of started giving prizes away at event, having like this little extra thing, which was quite nice, but then we just ended up doing it all the time, didn't we? So we was giving pit decks away for a while, so that was unreal to do. So and then UXL have come in as a bit of a partner, and their software is like £120 a year or something like that. So it's like maybe someone comes to an event and actually getting access to that for free is unreal. So, and then they give us kind of seats away to give it away as in the mentoring events as well. So those little partnerships like that, where you can kind of maybe just give some away, is really, really crucial. And even like, speaking to people like Figma and Miro, who are kind of massive in the industry for us as kind of design professionals, is kind of like, how can we bring them in and get extra kind of potential things for people to get, like free licenses and stuff like that. So that's so powerful. And even like with the design kind of jam, like bringing it into there and getting kind of the kids in, like using that software as well, because it's what we use day to day. So there's lots of potential, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what's really nice, sort of seeing people as well taking these things and learning and developing. And we're sort of facilitating that through our sponsors. Our sponsors are enabling us to help our community grow personally as well. UXL being a perfect example of that. We've seen the community engage so much with that. It's really, it's a fantastic tool, but hopefully it'll help people get into roles.
Yeah, so I guess, Kully, because you were speaking to kind of women in tech as well, and like bringing them into the conversation around how we partner with them. So it's like little connections like that where we can kind of spot opportunities, I guess.
Yeah, I think they've come to us quite naturally, to be fair. But I say that, but it's all down to the work that goes on behind the scenes, to be honest. Yeah. And just touching back on UXL, we do have an attendee that stays number one on the leadership board. So
Oh, sweet. So I guess yeah, we've got a bit of an understanding of kind of what goes on behind the scenes then. But I think there's maybe even like a step above that. You know, we know it's a lot of time, a lot of effort, that we kind of give up to kind of make these things happen. And some people might ask, why the hell do we do it? So yeah, I kind of think like, the motivations, like how did we end up here? Like Kully, for example, how did you end up getting into volunteering?
I had a mentorship with Lee, and I was just coming off a boot camp for UX and UI, and he was like, just come down to one events and see what it's like. And I was blown away by the community and like the passion there. And then I kind of just stepped back and had a bit of a chat with Lee, and he's like, if you want to get involved, you can get involved. And it just went from there. But I think your motivations change every time. I think when you finish an event, you just feel completely different for what you want to add and what you got from it from yourself as well. It comes down to little things like people sharing their stories. I know there are people in situations that have been looking for jobs, especially this year. It's been quite difficult. And the market's a bit dry at the moment. And stepping away from in your bedroom or in your lounge or wherever, behind your laptop, applying for jobs and not hearing anything back, coming to a community and sharing the stories and knowing that there's quite a lot of people going through the same thing just helps you realise that it's not down to your talent or down to your skill or down to you personally. It's just the market there at the moment. It just eases that pressure off you and makes you think, okay, just keep going with it. But also you come back with a lot of insight and tips that you may have not normally got yourself from a community like that, an event like that, to push you in a different direction in terms of your approach in applying for roles as well. For me, myself, I've gained a lot from it in the sense that your personal branding, confidence more than anything. I've grown quite a bit in just the last year. But yeah, your motivations just, I think from every event changes a lot. And I'm going to say it again, I get FOMO quite a lot with it, even if I've got way too much on. Sometimes when we have our weekly meeting, I'm like, then I just don't want to miss out on anything. So it's just one of those communities that there's so much buzz, so much passion, and that's what motivates you to continue.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a super important point you mentioned there around like, we could probably kind of talk a lot around like the benefits and the positives of these communities. I mean, it still is a positive, but like, not like, if you're getting like a rejection email, which isn't always the nicest thing to get, like just being able to go somewhere and see other people are in that same boat. And like you said, it's not just me, it's an industry thing, or like it's struggling for jobs are there at the moment. But yeah, no, it's super. I mean, for me as well, like there's probably like some more like, some more elements that are closer to, obviously you you worked here together for a long time. And once you kind of got involved, that was probably my step a little bit more in more recently. But I think kind of my motivations are definitely rooted in, they go back to like my university days. So I'm going to give a big shout out here to some of my lecturers, which I think they still are, they might have recently retired, but there's Richard Eskins, Jonathan Wilson and Jill Griffiths, who I know Jolie's still there. We've done kind of been in communication, done some talks with Jill, but they were like massive advocates for like networking and community. Richard in particular used to get I think it was Wednesday or every other Wednesday, he would try and get like industry experts, professionals to kind of come in and just give us a bit of like a real world view of, what life is like in this industry. And again, like 10 years plus ago, it was very different back then. So kind of compared to where it is now and seeing what people have got now is a very different stance. But like for me, that just kind of they really embedded in me like the power of like communities and networking particularly, because it's swing and a miss sometimes. You don't always connect with kind of what you're being shown sometimes, but I always kind of made a personal effort to try and connect to whoever it was there. I've got connections who are still, maybe don't speak to daily, but if I can need to reach out, I'll get some advice and tip. They're always kind of willing to mentor from, them coming and doing a talk 11 plus years ago. My first interaction with Chris Collinridge actually, who obviously works here now, was from a talk. He came and did a talk about UX in 2012. I won a book. I've still got the book. But yeah, it just kind of goes to show, like, because I think sometimes there's something I heard on a podcast recently, actually, and it kind of feels like it ties in around, it's called the red car experiment. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but it's essentially, if I were to say to you now, here's 50 quid for every red car you've seen today, you'd probably be able to kind of think about like 2 or 3, you might have passed one. But if I told you I'm going to give you 50 quid for every red car you see tomorrow, you will go out of your way to kind of find red cars. And it kind of links into like looking for opportunities. And for me, I kind of feel like these kind of networks and these communities are all about opening opportunities as well. So that's kind of where my motivation's coming from it as well.
Nice. No, we've got had similar routes into this, didn't we? I don't know if you want to touch on kind of the Manchester meetup scene.
Yeah. So I mean, it was Lee who kind of got me into this. Really, because we started with the design clubs, way back when, and it kind of really inspired me. Just sort of being able to give something back. And when I look back and reflect on my early days in my career and when I came out of university, communities helped me learn and develop so much and make those connections to enable me to get my first role. Actually came from going to an event. So it sort of felt like it was a really nice thing to be able to now do something similar for the community of Manchester that helped me when I was starting out.
You used to have to pay £12, didn't you, to get into a meetup in Manchester? It's crazy to think, but yeah, I think to offer kind of free events now is amazing. I think for me, because I used to always kind of be in that design, craft, delivery projects, and it was just kind of that was my career. But I think joining Auto Trader and the culture here and the guilds and the network kind of opened this door for me around communities, and I started like looking at communities of practice, and I think that's what's really changed me and my career, and kind of helped me with my kind of like mentorship side and leadership side as well. And I think that's the journey I've been over the last 2 years. Kind of as soon as that door was opened, found that value. I think I read the book called Ikigai. If you've read that, I know Lee did a talk on that earlier this year, and I think it's finding your purpose. And I think that really aligned with me around what I get from that. It's like what you value from life, how you can earn money and stuff like that. And I think I kind of found that purpose with communities, and it's like, how could I bring this into kind of my role? And then obviously that's probably, I get a lot of passion for that. So that's why I spend a lot of time doing it in my extended network. Probably too much time at the moment because we've just kind of jumped straight in. So, but yeah, I think it's kind of taken over kind of life at the moment because it's just getting so much enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who obviously get lots of benefit from that as well. So just wanted to chuck that out there, mate. It's crazy to think that kind of Natter has been around for like nearly 6 or 7 months now, and we've tried lots of different experiments in the types of events and stuff we do. And like you touched on before, there's probably loads more we could do with the brand itself, but like kind of what's next for Natter then, like looking forward, what's upcoming?
Yeah, I think you mentioned a lot of them planning sessions that we do. So I think we're planning about what we're doing, but then we're also kind of like still ideating at the same time. So someone will say, well, why don't we try this? And then, like I said, I think we said that we're pretty scared now because if someone has an idea, we ended up doing it straight away. But I think there's more of the same, isn't it? And then seeing what sticks. No, some things haven't worked. So we tried to create like a Discord channel. I've never, the first time I've been on Discord, to be honest, but that didn't really take off. So it's just like little things like that. But I know we was mentioning around kind of like charities and working with those and ways to get more hands-on or gain experience. I can't remember whose idea was that.
I think that was yours, James. I remember that one.
Yeah, that was me. I think it was something that the street group worked with Mustard Tree in Manchester, and I think it just felt like there was possibly an opportunity to help our community, particularly people who, as Kully was saying, who are out of work right now, perhaps build a portfolio and also help a charity. So maybe pull together a workshop and work with them to help them develop their digital presence. I think that it's just these little ideas that we have, and as you say, every week it's kind of someone goes, hey, what about if we tried this thing? And I think we just jump straight in and just put it out there and try it and see what happens. Some take off, some don't. As you said, Discord didn't catch on, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to keep trying things and keep exploring.
Yeah. So if there's anyone out there who's looking for kind of that opportunity, then get in touch, because I think there's definitely potential, isn't there, in that?
Indeed, I know. Obviously, the failure of Discord, we're trialing WhatsApp groups at the moment as well. That's that's going on. That was an effort, wasn't it? But yeah, so obviously you kind of touched on there, Lee, around that. Obviously, people getting involved, and that's not just coming to the events. That's that's hosts, that's speakers, that's other sponsors. That's if you've got space that you're willing to give up to us, like we'll happily take it. But yeah, kind of how can people get involved? Then what's the best way of getting in touch?
Yeah, so if like you said there, so if someone wants to speak in an event, like we said, it doesn't have to be a talk, it could be a workshop or something like that. So you can get involved that way, kind of hosting or sponsoring, just like any idea, we're willing to kind of listen. So
give it a bash.
That'd be good, yeah. So the best way to get in touch is kind of on the website, I guess, so like natter.community. So if you get on there, have a look around, kind of see what sort of kind of aligns most with you. And yeah, we'll try it out, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So right, well, I think, gang, we're wrapping up. So yeah, big thanks to Lee, James, and Kully. And I'm going to give myself a pat on the back as well. I'm pretty nervous doing this. And yeah, and for all the listeners viewing and tuning in, I read that totally wrong. But yeah, like Lee said, if you want to find out more about Natter, you can follow us on Instagram at @LoveToNatter and at natter.community. If you want to reach out to any of us individually, I think we're all on LinkedIn. Give us a message. And then yeah, and just for Roadmap itself, thanks for tuning in. Pete's told me to say this. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, and remember to hit the notification button so you never miss an episode. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and see you for another episode soon.